Before we get started, I've got some exciting news. HelloFresh is now a proud sponsor of Divorce and Beyond. If you've been thinking about cutting back on grocery bills, avoiding food waste, or just getting dinner on the table without stress, this is your moment because right now, HelloFresh is offering one free item in every box for life. That's right, every single box you order includes a free item forever. And just to give you a taste of what that looks like, get it, taste, I got pineapple upside down cakes in my first order. I originally discovered HelloFresh during the pandemic, and I fell in love with learning new recipes and expanding our dinner routine. I let it go for a while because, hey, I live in Chicago with world-class restaurants on every corner, but with today's rising costs, HelloFresh is back on my table, and I'm so glad it is. So if you're ready to save time, money, and dinner, go to divorceandbeyond.com/HelloFresh and sign up today to grab that free item for life. You can also find a link in the show notes or divorceandbeyond.com/HelloFresh. And now let's get into today's episode.
Coming up on today's episode of the Divorce and Beyond podcast.
That was one of the main things for me coming out of my divorce was releasing what divorce should look like. I should have been pissed and angry and bitter and all of these things. But I was like, I don't want to carry that the rest of my life. And so navigating all of that and then coming back to ourselves in that moment. What do I actually want my life to look like? I had an idea going into the marriage. Now I get the opportunity to create a new vision coming out of the marriage.
Hello, and welcome to the Divorce and Beyond podcast. I'm Susan Guthrie, your host. As a top divorce attorney and family law mediator for 30 years, I know what you need to know to get through your divorce, and most importantly, how to move beyond it to thrive and transition to your new future. My experts and I are here to give you the insider view into the process, so listen in for the wisdom and expert information you need on your journey through divorce and beyond. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Divorce and Beyond. I'm your host, Susan Guthrie, and today's episode is going to hit home for many of you and in the best possible way, especially if you've ever felt weighed down by guilt, who hasn't, judgment, oh my God, everyone, or that pesky inner voice that keeps whispering, you know, you should. Right? We've all heard that voice. Well, today we are talking about a trap that so many of us fall into, especially during crazy times like divorce, and that is living a life built on shoulds. We've all heard this voice, right? I should have tried harder. I should be angrier. I should be over it by now, right? These sound familiar? Well, today's guest, Jessica Frew, is here to help us shove those shoulds right out the door. Jessica is a wife, ex-wife, mom, stepmom, and the founder of The Bold Logic. She's also the author of the brand new book, Shove the Shoulds. Become a decision-making badass to live the bold life you deserve, which is available for pre-sale right now. In this powerful conversation that Jessica and I have, she's going to share her signature BBB decision-making formula, which is the same method she has used to help hundreds of women rebuild trust in themselves after betrayal, divorce, and the kind of self-doubt that keeps us stuck. So if you're feeling boxed in by other people's expectations or your own, this episode will show you how to break out and start living your life on your terms. Oh, and don't forget to stick around until the end because we are going to have a special giveaway. Jessica is offering one lucky listener a free copy of the new book, and you'll find out exactly how to enter at the end of the episode. So let's dive in to this episode, Stop Shooting on Yourself, The Bold New Path After Divorce with Jessica Frew. Jessica, I'm so happy that you're back with us. It has been a minute, as you said, right? It has been a couple of years. You were with us last time with a great episode that kind of you're building on today. The episode was called Out with the Old and In with the Bold. And you're building on the bold with your new book, Shove the Shoulds, Become a Decision-Making Badass to Live the Bold Life You Deserve. And I got to tell you, I'm excited to talk about it because my listeners know one of the things I like to say is stop shooting on yourself. Or even worse, stop shooting on me. So, yeah, right? So first, thank you for coming back. I'm delighted that you're here and we're going to talk about this new book.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, we should all over each other. We should all over ourselves. It's crazy.
We say, I should, or you should. My husband says I say you should to him all the time. I should know better. See what I did there? We do. We put that artificial sort of should out there in the world, not only for ourselves, but for others. Let me just ask you from the top, why do we do that? Why is that so prevalent in our world?
Oh man, it's because of our own conditioning and our beliefs about how the world should look. Like whatever has happened to us, our perceptions of life, what life has thrown at us, all impacts what we believe our life should look like. I keep doing this with my hands, making a box because it boxes us in. It puts things in a parameter that our brain is I can make sense of this. This feels safe. This feels good. And within that box of should, things feel comfortable. And at least we think they feel comfortable. Things feel a little bit safe. Things feel manageable. We know how to make decisions based off of that should. And that should just represents judgment, basically, is what it comes down to. If we are saying should, we are judging it in some way, good, bad, right or wrong, all of those things. And I have just come to decide in my life that there is no good or bad or right or wrong. Yes, in the extremes, I understand that. And also, I can't decide what is good or bad or right or wrong for me because my life has definitely not sit within those guidelines. And also, therefore, for somebody else, I can't put that on them.
I love your box analogy because I think that for listeners and Divorce and Beyond, most of my listeners are sitting here at some point in a dramatic life change of going from being a married person to an unmarried person, right? And you've been there. I've been there. Most of my listeners have been there. And that's the box, right? Our life should look a certain way. We're living within that confine. And you're right. It feels, within those confines, you can feel very safe. But if you've ever been in a box, anybody, think back to when you were a kid and you take a box and your parent, something, and you turn it into a fort. If you didn't cut some windows and doors into that fort, it got pretty stifling and not very pleasant in that box pretty quickly. And that's where those limits of shoulds keep us in that box. So why, let me take this somewhere. Let me, for those who are listening, who are going through this difficult time or facing this difficult time where by necessity, they're going to come out of that box, but it feels so scary. It feels we hear this word around divorce so often. It feels like failure. I'm being dumped out of the box. I'm being pushed out of my box. How does the should play into how they're feeling in this moment?
Yeah, there's so much shame and again, failure and feelings of loss and grief that come along with divorce. And we are thinking, well, my life shouldn't look this way. I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't want that. I should. And even when we're hesitant to come out of the marriage, it's I should be grateful for what I have. This isn't a big deal. That's what kind of keeps us in the marriage a lot of times is the should of it all. I should it be enough or whatever. And I think as we come out of it, there's this gift that's given. And it's really hard to see it as a gift when we are in that moment. I say that and I know my clients cringe and I'm like, I get it because I was there, because it does feel like we are being tossed. Like this wasn't our decision, or maybe it was, but it wasn't what we were hoping for in the relationship. We got married. We weren't hoping to get divorced at the end of it. But there is this gift of opening up that box and finding out who we are again and connecting back to that. And we have these shoulds that are put upon us, especially coming out of a marriage, because we might have been gaslit during that marriage. We might have been manipulated. We might have experienced betrayal. In my case, I had a gay husband and betrayal and things like that that we then have to unpack because we have been should on by the other person, especially if you've been gaslit or manipulated in any way or betrayal. You're dealing with this idea that your inner knowing was suppressed because the other person was telling you, no, it's fine. Everything's okay. You're making things up. You're overreacting. You're too dramatic. It's you. It's all you. And then once we know the truth, we're still stuck in that mindset of, oh, but I can't trust myself. I'm wrong. I'm the problem. Whatever. I should do better. I shouldn't be so dramatic. I should be calm. I should be whatever thing we're putting in our head. It's still there because we've been conditioned to believe that. And I firmly believe this conditioning of not being able to trust ourselves and carrying that should started when we were little itty bitty kids by well-meaning intentions, like well-intentioned adults who told us, you shouldn't feel that way. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't hurt that bad. You shouldn't wear that. You shouldn't want to do your hair like that. And in that, they were trying to help us be accepted. They were trying to help us stay away from pain and heartache and all of those things. But then it's ingrained in us that we can't trust what's in us. There is a should, there is a way we should be living outside of us. And whatever we feel and want is wrong. It's bad, it's wrong, whatever. And then that is amplified if you have been in a relationship where somebody is telling you that constantly. I mean, it's amplified in teen years, it's amplified with social media, but when it's your partner, it really hits home. And so coming out of a marriage, we have a law of that should. We get to pick through. I was going to say we have to, but I'm like, we get to do that work now, because when we do it now, coming out of the marriage, we have a whole life ahead of us where we're not going to carry that, and we're not going to tolerate the bullshit again, and we're not going to tolerate all these things. And it is an exciting moment, but man, it takes time, it takes intention, and it takes letting go of what we think divorce should look like and letting go of what we thought our life would look like. That was one of the main things for me coming out of my divorce, was releasing what divorce should look like. I should have been pissed and angry and bitter and all of these things. But I was like, I don't want to carry that the rest of my life. Like, that is not something I want to live into. And people would always tell me, well, you should be angry. You shouldn't be friends with him. You shouldn't let him into your life. You should whatever. Aren't you worried about his influence on your daughter? I'm like, no, this is her dad. Like, it's still her dad. And so navigating all of that and then coming back to ourselves in that moment of, what does this actually mean for me? What do I actually want my life to look like? I had an idea going into the marriage. Now I get the opportunity to create a new vision coming out of the marriage.
Well, that's one of the things I say to my listeners all the time, is that it's very hard to take a perspective of divorce as a positive, because we shouldn't have to go through this, if to use the should. But I always say divorce is an opportunity, and the opportunity is to create that new future. But I love what you're doing here by pulling this together, because you're really in the book. I know you talk about learning to trust yourself, right? Like, everybody thinks about the loss of trust in a relationship after divorce as the loss of trust between the two people. And your focus in the book, which by the way, everyone is on pre-sale right now. We'll have links to it. I forgot to mention that, but I want you all to know about it and stick around to the end because Jessica's going to tell you how you might win a free copy of the book. But what you do in the book is really, I think, the key and is brilliant. You're not talking about establishing trust outside relationships. You talk about establishing trust in yourself. Getting that trust. And you may not have had it, as you've just pointed out, for a really long time. That might be why you got into this relationship that didn't work out. I don't know. What do you think? We're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, but don't go anywhere because in the second half of the show, Jessica is going to share the key to rebuilding trust in yourself after betrayal or divorce, and why that trust, not closure, is what truly sets you free. Plus, she'll share how you can start using her BBB decision-making formula right now to stop second guessing and start showing up boldly in your next chapter. We'll be right back. Let's take a little minute to talk about something special. If you follow me on Instagram, you all know how much I love my evil eye pendant. I love I have my bracelet. I have the pendant that goes around my neck. I wear evil eyes all the time. And so many of you have reached out asking where I got them. I'm thrilled to share with you all, drum roll please, that my favorite jewelry source, Yumi You Jewelry, is now a sponsor of Divorce and Beyond. For me, Yumi You Jewelry is more than just jewelry. The symbols are symbols of strength, individuality, and empowerment. And they handcraft each piece with love and care. And so they are designed to help women stand out and embrace our unique personalities. So whether it's an evil eye, like I have chosen for protection, a hamsa for faith, or any other meaningful symbol, their pieces offer beauty and inspiration even during these tough times like divorce. So here's the best part. Yumi You is giving my listeners an exclusive discount if you use the code BEYOND, that's BEYOND, all caps, at checkout. You'll get 20% off your order. 20%. So if you're looking for a meaningful piece to keep you inspired or to protect you during this difficult time, visit divorcebeyond.com/YumiYu. That's YUMIYU. There will be a link in the show notes. And treat yourself or treat someone you love to something special. You deserve it. Now, let's get back to the second half of the show.
As women, our biggest fear one of our biggest fears of coming out of a relationship is first, we're afraid we're going to be alone. But secondly, is that I'm going to marry the same type of person. I'm going to end up in a relationship with the same type of person. I work with a lot of women who have had gay spouses because that was my lived experience. And they're always like, I'm going to marry another gay man. And I'm like, no, you are not, because you have learned things about yourself. You've learned to trust yourself. You've learned to understand yourself. But it really is this opportunity of coming to trust yourself again. People ask me all the time, well, how do you trust your partner now? My husband travels for work occasionally and all these things. And they're like, how do you trust that when your ex had an affair while you were out of town and like all of these things? And I'm like, I trust it because I trust myself. I trust that if I do have a moment where I question what my husband, Matt, is doing, I will address it with him. And his response isn't what I need. If he tells me everything's fine, it's okay, I can listen to that and check in with myself and say, how does that feel in my body? Does my body feel like, yes, I trust that? Or is it still like, okay, that makes sense, but also I still feel weird? And so it's understanding that and trusting that. I don't have to trust my husband at all, but I do purely because I trust myself. Like there are no alarms going off in my body that I am ignoring. I have learned to very carefully listen to those and understand them so I can make decisions based on that. And ultimately, for me, shoving our shoulds comes down to owning our decision-making power and knowing what we are going to do in a situation. So we're not just reactionary, we are moving forward with intention.
Well, and so that element right there, I just want listeners to really listen right now, because this is the key to getting through your divorce, right? It's the key to moving on in your life and into your beyond in a good way. But if you are in the midst of a divorce or going into it, guess what you're going to have to make a lot of? Decisions, right? And I'll be honest with you all, this is when people make a lot of bad decisions because they're making them from places where they don't trust themselves. So they listen to what other people tell them to do, or they do what they should rather than what, right? I mean, we can bring our shoulds in here. Now, in the book, you talk about the BBB decision-making formula, and it's BEBEBE. Everyone, I want you to know that. So that's really your secret sauce. And I'm not going to ask you to give it all away right here, but can you give people a little bit of an idea? Because you've helped hundreds of your clients with this formula.
Yeah. Yeah. And it started out working with women who had experienced betrayal or divorce, or women who had a gay husband or whatever. And then I'm like, no, this is just what we all need in life, is to understand how to make decisions, because we weren't taught that. And so the BBB method comes down to 3 B's that we are going to embrace. And number 1 is learning to be gentle with ourselves. I firmly believe in releasing so many things and not taking on more. I think so much of why we have dysregulated nervous systems and are dealing with chronic illness, fatigue, like so many things, is because we keep adding to our plate. So especially when you're going through divorce, it's tempting to add a bunch of things. Oh, I need to date right away. I need to have the perfect job. I need to whatever. We have all these ideas of what we need to do. And so we've made too many decisions too fast that aren't really in alignment or come from the should. And so being gentle with ourselves helps us release things. It helps us specifically release the judgment that we are carrying about what this means about us, about what it means if we don't do this the traditional way. And I'm just talking about traditional way of divorcing, which I think is hilarious. And so we have to be gentle with ourselves so we can acknowledge where we are shooting on ourselves. Where are we carrying judgment of who we believe we're supposed to be and how our life is supposed to look? And how can we start seeing new ways of understanding that? But honestly, in the first step, we're not going into the new ways. We just want to acknowledge. I always think of it as the first step in a 12-step program is that acknowledgement that there's something going on. Yeah, that I have a problem, and shooting on myself is the problem, because it means I am judging myself. I am judging other people, which is so natural within us. And also it can become natural to release that judgment. And that's the goal and intention of the first step. I always say the first step is 60% of the process. We then move into being humble. And people hear this word and they're like, oh, that means I'm going to be a doormat. That means I shouldn't be proud of myself. Again, shoulds. I shouldn't be proud. I should just break down all my boundaries and just whatever. And I call bull crap. No, being humble is about releasing your ego and allowing yourself to be wrong. So we want to be wrong about the judgments we're carrying that are holding us back. We are going to allow space that, oh, my life, I will never be happy again post-divorce. I want that statement to be wrong, because dang it, I have a long life to live after this, and I don't want to be miserable. I want to be happy. I don't want this one situation to determine the whole rest of my life. It's going to have an impact on it. But also, I don't have to be sad. I don't have to be miserable. I don't have to be pissed or angry or bitter or whatever those things are. I get to have the control. So being humble is getting to know ourselves for ourselves, not what anybody else told us we should be. And it's really creating that deep connection back to our gut knowing. Why do I want these things? What do I value? Is it wrong that I want to date now? Is it wrong that I have no desire to date right now? Is it wrong that whatever, we have these ideas and we release that in this step. We are releasing the judgment, and then we are getting to know ourselves without that judgment in place. And it is so powerful. Releasing the ego is the key. Be wrong. Allow yourself to make mistakes. The power that comes in moving forward is in taking action. So being humble is 30% of the process. These are just rough estimates. And the last 10% of the decision-making process is being bold. And all it is being willing to take bold, imperfect action. Now, we think that we need to research every decision, that we need input from our mom, our best friend, our aunts, our dads, or whoever before we make the decision. And that's bullcrap. We need to have maybe a couple places that we go that feel really good in that moment to talk to, but ultimately, we want to feel really good within ourselves. I dated my gay ex-husband who had an affair with a man and left me for a man. I dated him again after we were divorced, which just is insane. I know that it sounds nuts. And also, it was the best thing for Steve and I both to do. It was the most healing thing. And we left that and we both went forward so confidently. I think we both went into it hoping, we'll work this out and we'll figure this out because we genuinely loved and cared about each other. No, we came out of it knowing we were done and knowing that we could still love each other. We'd talked about a lot of hard things before, but in that moment, we talked about so many other hard things. So did we fail in our relationship? No, we didn't. People could view it that way. We don't. We view that we succeeded because here we are. It's been I can't remember. My daughter was 13 years since we've been divorced. We're still friends. We still get along. We can be in the same room. We can call each other when there's an emergency or something, and we can show up for ourselves, for each other, and especially for our daughter. And to me, that is one of the things I am the most proud of in my life. And it's because we were willing to make decisions and fail and make the next decision and try so that we could build confidence in ourselves and in each other. And that is where true confidence comes from, is by taking the action that within you is best for you, releasing other people's opinions and taking that action to move forward. That's where confidence comes. That's where you get you see women who are just such badasses after their divorce. That's what they are doing. It's not a facade. Some of them it might be, but for most of them who you are drawn to, that's the reality of it, is they made decisions and built back their confidence and trust in themselves. And now they get to own that badassery.
Own your badassery. That is awesome. And you get that path starts with the shoulds and eliminating the shoulds, right? So I love your 3 Bs because this is sort of goes to something. And again, my listeners may recognize it because I always say the beginning of everything is awareness. And when you say be gentle with yourself, that's kind of recognizing that you're shoulding all over yourself all the time and other people are shoulding on you, especially when you go through something like a divorce. How many times do you hear, you guys should work it out for the kids? You should learn to be more forgiving. You should pay more attention to him or he should pay more attention. Everybody has an idea of what you should. I've heard people say things along the lines of what people said to you when your marriage was ending about you should block him out of your life. You should do this. You should do that. So the fact that awareness and being gentle with yourself as you go through that process is so critical. And maybe for those who are listening, it might be the first time it's occurred to them that they have, and what I'm getting to here is they have some role in getting themselves into the box. So the good news with that is it may be hard to accept that someone else didn't put us in the box. that we might have had something to do it, but that's where freedom comes from, right? Because once you realize you put yourself in the box, that's when you can be humble and move on to being bold, right? To get out of that box, because you're like Dorothy, you're wearing your ruby slippers, you have the power.
You have the power. And I think for so long we were convinced we didn't have power. And again, it's not your fault that you were taught that it was ingrained in you. And that's why we have to be gentle with ourselves in understanding that and releasing that. Like, oh my gosh, this is what was put on me from such a young age. And now I'm going to release that. Now I am going to take my power and I am going to radically own that I stayed in a relationship that wasn't serving me. Yes, I got myself into this relationship. That doesn't mean I'm good or bad or right or wrong. It just is. And that now gives me the freedom and power to move forward, which is so exciting. It gets me so jazzed up. Like when women really feel that and see that, you can like see it flip. We're going to take ourselves out of that victimhood. We're going to take ourselves out of that. And we are going to be the hero of our own story and of our own lives.
And that's bold. I mean, I have always enjoyed that bold is your, from the time we met, which is so many years ago now, though, boldness and being bold has always been at the core. And, one of the questions that I want to ask you, because I think that the shoulds, and that we are then, drilled into us, they can come at us from a lot of different ways, right? We get them as women, we get certain shoulds of how we should behave. Frankly, men get shoulds of men don't cry, men do this, men do that. I know that you were raised where religion played a large role in your world. And so religion is another aspect of a societal should that we have. There are so many shoulds in our lives. And what you're really talking about is not, I want to say this to people so that they understand there's a comfort in this, maybe. It's not that you have to reject everything that you've been told, right? I'm not even quite sure that I'm going to come up with the right way to phrase it. Let's give it to you, the expert. Help me here.
I get what yeah. So yes, it doesn't mean that we're just going to throw everything out. There are things that still very much are aligned for who we are. There are things that we have done and put in place along the way that do feel good and in alignment. And also along with that, we've carried things that don't feel in alignment, that we've picked up along the way that we're like, oh, I'm going to throw this in my bag and it's going to stay with me. And it's like, let's set some of those things down to lighten the load that you are carrying so your body can feel good. It can feel at peace. It can feel like you have a regulated nervous system, like all of these things that we talk about. But yeah, this doesn't mean we have to revamp our lives completely. There are things like you might be really good at dressing for yourself and doing your hair for yourself, but also you feel like you need to show up in your kids' classrooms and be the perfect, Pinterest mom and all those things, when really that just feels like a heavy load to carry. I am not the mom that shows up at the classroom. It's not me. In fact, my ex-husband was the art mom for years, and I really appreciated that because I was like, we're done. I don't have to do it. But even if he hadn't, I wouldn't carry that load because that's not who I am. But we feel like, oh, but to be a good mom, to look like a good mom, I need to do this. And so it's understanding those things of, okay, what do I keep with me and that actually feels good? And what am I ready to say, no, not any more of this. And that's why I also talk about this isn't about adding more. When I brought that up earlier, we're not adding more. We're actually releasing the things that don't serve us. And by so doing, first of all, we get to actually rest. I had a client reach out the other day and she's like, there's nothing to talk about with my new partner. She's like,
we just sit and stare at each other.
Yeah, she's like, I'm in a boring relationship and I don't know what to do. And I said, okay, but you're happy and content in this relationship. She's like 100%. And I'm like, you are so used to having the drama and the co-parenting issues and all of these things from her first relation or her most previous relationship that now your body thinks that's normal and that's safe and doesn't realize this feels good. This is actually a healthy relationship. And I think that's what we get stuck in is like, oh, but I need to be going, I need to be doing. But if we're always in that, we have no space to welcome in the things that are truly us, that we truly want. So we're going to keep the things that fit. We're going to learn to release the things that don't. And we're going to understand what those are along the way. And sometimes there are things that fit that don't fit for that season, and we get to come back to them. And sometimes there's things that don't fit right now that we've pushed away that it's like, yeah, I thought I'd pick that back up and I'm never going to.
I like that there are no absolutes. I always spend a lot of time when you go through these significant changes in life. It feels like such a huge upheaval. And sometimes you just can't deal with everything all at one time, right? So you might set something aside that you can't deal with in the moment. Think of the freedom to trust yourself that it's okay to put it aside for now and then pick it up if you want to or not. I mean, I really think that the most, I call them golden nuggets in the episodes, and the golden nugget that's launching itself for me is that the key to all of this is the trusting yourself and finding that trust, whether it's for the first time or reestablishing it.
100%. Creating or reestablishing that trust in yourself. First of all, women are like, I've never felt that. I don't know what that feels like, or whatever. I'm like, we can teach you that. This is something that can be learned, something that can be fostered within you. It takes a little bit of time and it takes intention, but it is worth every second along the way. And also, that is the key. And decision making is the way to reestablish that trust within yourself. Starting to make decisions. I will give women that I work with a trust your gut challenge. And so what it is you pick one thing a day that is something you can do that feels right for you. So whether that is what clothes you're putting on your body, or how you're doing your hair, or what food you're going to eat. I always tell women, like, pick lunch. If you have kids or a partner, pick what lunch you want to eat, because usually there's nobody else involved in that. But like, pick those things and act on them. Don't just acknowledge it, act on it, because it's in those little things that we start creating trust and safety within ourselves to trust what we are doing. So then we get into this habit of trusting our decision-making patterns. And then as decisions are bigger, we're like, oh, I can trust this. I feel safe enough to trust this. It is going to work out, even if it doesn't go as planned.
What a great little exercise for people to do. So that's another little golden nugget for everyone. And I want to make sure that we talk about the book because it's about to launch. It actually is in pre-sale right now. And I know there's a lot of special little extras that come along if you purchase the book in pre-sale. Of course, as always, listeners, I'm going to have links to everything in the show notes. But the book actually launches on September 12th. And I think the book probably, grew out of your work with your clients. And I'm going to imagine that there are a lot of these little tips and exercises and, helping tools for people as they read along. So tell us a little bit about the book, and then don't forget to tell people how they might win a copy.
Yes. So it 100%, like, this comes from my lived experience from working with hundreds of women in going through this process of really trusting themselves again. And so it takes you through the decision-making method. It takes you through some of the big hangups that I see women have that keeps them from really trusting themselves and acting on the things that they want and need. And the thing that I love about the pre-sale right now is there's several different options of what you can buy into. And what you get is amazing. I always say, I'm like, go with the middle option. Go for the middle option, because you also get 6 weeks of working with me in the decision lab, where we go through the steps in real time and we see where is it that's holding you up in the decision-making process. And you make one decision over those 6 weeks and act on it and move forward. And I wanted women, because I know, like, coaching isn't accessible to everybody. It's not. And so having this book helps you go through that. There's questions at the end of each chapter so that you can kind of do those things on your own. And also, if you go with like a pre-sale option, you get a workbook shipped to you in several cases that then has even more questions that you can really dive into this process on your own and do kind of some self-coaching and really make progress in your life towards trusting yourself again. And it's at shoveyourshoulds.com. So it's easy to remember. You can go pick it up at any time.
All right. So I'm going to say this, everyone, but I'm not shoulding on you, but you should go to shoveyourshoulds.com and get yourself a pre-order or take the middle option if you're listening to Jessica. So the opportunity, one of the things that I love about having authors that have written from their lived experience and who are sharing what they know works, right? That's what I think is the missing key that many people don't know when they're listening is what you've distilled down in the book is what you've done and seen work with client after client after client. And it also comes out of your own process. That's how it all started. And so this is the culmination of years of work. And you put it into these bite-sized chunks that are going to help them go through this in, a much more manageable way. So it's a gift to people. I appreciate that you were able to sit down. I'm in the midst of writing my latest book right now, and I battling all the demons of writing at the moment, but I'm going to get it done. It'll get out there. But last thing, I know that you're going to give away one free copy to someone who's listening, and we're going to have a link where they can go and sign up, and then you're going to have a raffle. So after this episode ends, might I suggest we keep the link open, say for a week, and then do a raffle? Why don't you and I go live on Instagram and we'll do the raffle on Instagram after a week?
Sounds amazing. And also, if you pre-order the book, so go to the link, get signed up for the free book. And if you pre-order, whoever wins, if you've pre-ordered, I will just reimburse you whatever level you bought into. So, so don't hesitate. You can go get it if you want. You can wait. It's up to you. Just know that if you do pre-sale and you happen to be the winner, I will just Venmo you over whatever you paid and we will call it a wash.
So it's going to be very exciting to get your free copy if you are the winner. But if not, you're still a winner. Because if you get the book in pre-sale, as you heard, you're going to get a lot of exciting things that come along with this. And you're going to learn how to trust yourself, get yourself outside of the should box, and live that bold life that's waiting for you in your beyond, as I love to say. So, Jessica, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your secret sauce with everyone, letting them know that the path to this next stage is right there waiting for them. And really they have the power and the key within themselves. That's so important for them to know in a time when many people don't feel very empowered. So thank you for your bold choices and for your bold ability. We really appreciate your coming back. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Always a treat.
Always. All right, listeners, before we go, let's take a moment to highlight a few of the golden nuggets from today's powerful conversation with Jessica. First, shoulds are often just judgment in disguise. Whether they're coming from others or from inside your own head, recognizing when you're being should on is the first step to reclaiming your freedom. Second, self-trust isn't something you either have or you don't. It's something you can build. And as Jessica shared, it starts with making small, intentional decisions that reflect what you want, not what others expect. Third, you don't need permission to make bold moves. You just need to practice. Jessica's BBB formula, be gentle, be humble, and be bold, gives you a powerful framework to follow. And finally, the real freedom after divorce doesn't come from getting closure. It comes from reclaiming your decision-making power and choosing what your next chapter will look like. That's your bold path forward. Thank you for joining me today on the Divorce and Beyond podcast. I hope you found some information and inspiration to help you on this journey. Please join me every Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for a new episode. And if you like the show, please take the time to subscribe and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. You can also find more information on the website at divorceandbeyondpod.com, where you'll find links to the YouTube channel, transcripts of the episodes, and other bonus content. So I'll see you next week to help you move through your divorce and beyond.